corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, July 19th, 2018. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. And we have got a lot of stuff to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and opinions. A reminder that our third hour guest today will be Leon Siu from the Sovereign Kingdom of Hawaii, and he's actually going to be calling into the show from down on the Big Island in Hilo, so we might be able to get some additional details about the volcano as well as his progress on getting international recognition for an independent nation of Hawaii. All right, so let's get on into it. William Binney has now added his voice to the crowd of people saying it would have been impossible for the Russians to have broken into the DNC servers and copied off the data. And he said the main reason is that an analysis of the stolen files showed they were downloaded at a rate of 49 megabytes per second. Now, the internet can't do that, especially here on Spectrum. Connections people simply cannot hit that speed from one personal computer to another. It might be possible with a very good server with an extreme connection, but the DNC didn't have that. Over the web, it would be unlikely. The only thing that is possible for the download speeds recorded embedded in the files is a high-end flash drive plugged into a USB 3 port. So once more, there's evidence against this being a Russian hack, or for that matter, a hack from anybody. And once again, we're looking back at Seth Rich, who certainly would have known how to use a high-performance flash drive and a USB 3.0 port, as being the leak. But despite that, the Democrats and the corporate media are basically operating on the assumption that the Russians did hack the DNC servers. It's a foregone conclusion. The science is settled. Only a Russian stooge would dare question it now. And they're declaring it an act of war. They're really pushing forward on this and saying, oh yes, it's an act of war when they come on in and hack our computers. And again, there is no proof. There is no proof that any of this stuff actually happened as described. Now, yesterday we were talking about how one Democrat was equating the alleged hacking with Pearl Harbor. And today, Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal is comparing it to 9/11. They're really reaching. They're just scrambling to push this agenda. But you need to remember something. The United States went to war with Iraq without any evidence of weapons of mass destruction. Now we're being driven to war with Russia without any evidence of collusion or hacking. And the same guy is behind both of them. Because for those of you who don't remember, Robert Mueller was at the forefront of those claiming Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. And now he's back at it again, saying Russian hacking, Russian collusion, pushing for more war. Well, here's your rifle, Robert. Paul Craig Roberts is out with another article saying crazed U.S. prostitutes drive the world to nuclear war. And he's just pointing out, and everybody can see this for themselves, it's like corporate media is standing behind us with cattle prods and bullwhips, just trying to drive us off the edge of this cliff to a major, major war. And I love this one sentence that he has in this article talking about America's corporate media. The only conclusion is that the American print and TV media is devoid of all intelligence, all integrity, and all self-respect. The American print and TV media is a collection of excrement that should be flushed down the toilet. And the instant I read that, my first reaction is, don't sugarcoat it like that. Tell us how you really feel. But we do know Paul Craig Roberts is absolutely right. Now, Mark Levin was on Fox News Channel's Hannity saying that there are psychopaths in the media. And he went on to say, it doesn't matter what Trump did, backing off on the meddling issue, it wouldn't have made any difference. No matter what he says, the media and the Democrats are still going to be attacking him. So Trump has no reason to play nice anymore. It's not going to get him anything. It really is time for him to get out those presidential brass knuckles. And I think right now the American public would side with him because we're all sick and tired of the snowflakes and the whiners and the crybabies that are out there. All right, we're going to take a phone call. James in South Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Michael, I was listening yesterday, and you were talking about Sandy Hook right at the end of the show.
Yes.
Well, I remember, I think about 2 months ago, you made this, I'm almost positive you made the statement that Alex Jones had gone to court against the Posner man about defamation, and the lawyer had asked the man if he could prove that the dead child was his son. And the man could not do it, and the case was dropped.
That was Wolfgang Halbig.
The case was dropped. Did that not happen?
That was Wolfgang Halbig, not Alex Jones. But Wolfgang Halbig and Alex Jones are back in court now in a jury trial. They're being sued by the parents of Sandy Hook, and we're waiting to hear an update of it. But it is a jury trial, which means Halbig is going to have a chance to stand up there. And basically, all he's got to prove is that a reasonable person would say there are problems with the official story. That's all he's got to do. Because in order to secure any kind of a punitive conviction against him, the plaintiffs are going to have to prove malice, that Alex Jones and Wolfgang Halbig intended to cause them some kind of harm. And they can't do that. Of course, they may not be thinking about winning the lawsuit. They may just want to drag it on out and try and bankrupt both of them. Easy to do in the case of Wolfgang, unfortunately.
It does seem very strange that the man could not prove that the dead child was his son. I mean, that ought to be a red flag waving all over the place.
Yeah, it would be a red flag. I'm not sure about the exact details of it, but I know that during the discovery process, Halbig's lawyer demanded documentation, and I think one version I heard, it was simply to prove that he actually lived in the city at the time of the incident. And Posner just dropped the case and he was gone. But they're back in court again, and it's a very, very dangerous precedent where they're just going to try and sue anybody who questions the official story about anything out of existence. So I'm hoping that Alex and Wolfgang will prevail in this and set a legal precedent. This could actually go all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, it needs to come to some kind of termination one way or another.
I agree.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And we're going to take a phone call from Francis in Montreal. Aloha, Francis. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I wanted to talk about further ramifications that are emerging from the big Helsinki meeting.
Yes.
And there's a really good article in the Spectator that just came out, and I want to draw it to your attention and to all your audience. Assad is back for good in Syria, and with Trump's blessing. A U.S.-Russia peace plan has huge implications for the Middle East, by John R. Bradley.
Yes.
And it goes on to talk about this is not just Putin, Benjamin Netanyahu's involved. Assad is there to stay. That's what they want. The U.S. is pulling out. And Bolton is actually involved. I'm surprised because when Bolton got in, I was like, oh my God, this is the worst of the neocons. But I thought this is all getting straightened away now. And even the whole objective is they don't, like the Israelis, I think, are really terrified of a war over the Golan Heights. And with Iran and Hezbollah involved against them. So part of the deal is Hezbollah is going back to southern Lebanon, and they're going to stay put and be left alone. And Syria is going to be left there. There's just been a huge 3-day battle in eastern Syria with the Syrian army, and they've just completely destroyed the rebel forces.
Yep.
And they're taking the prisoners and dumping them off in the northeast corner, and they're going to get bombed into oblivion by the Russians, by the Syrian Air Force. And the main thing, though, is for the Israelis they want Iran to be pulled back and just get out of Syria because they're terrified of Iranian forces there. And part of the deal, apparently, is Russia is coming in and they're slapping $50 billion on the table on a big oil and gas investment in Iran. And so that's going to be the sweetener for the deal to get Iran out of there. And once that's done, Saudi Arabia is involved, the Gulf states are involved, and it's a massive, complex peace plan. And it's like Trump is just turning out to be this amazing diplomatist who's just sweeping away decades of garbage off the table and clearing a lot of problems up in the world.
Okay, let me back up here a little bit because I have one small problem. First of all, the only people who know what was said in that 2-hour meeting is Putin, Trump, and the translator. And Congress is trying to get the translator to testify under oath here. Your comment about the prisoners are just going to be dumped off in the Northwest and then bombed out of existence by Russia and Syria, that would not be part of any kind of a peace plan that had any chance of going public because you're talking about a war crime there. So right there, where is this information sourced from? That's my question.
I told you at the beginning, it's the Spectator. It just came out. It's by John R. Bradley. Assad is back for good in Syria and with Trump's blessing. A U.S.-Russia peace plan has huge implications for the Middle East. And let's see here. This is all pre-planned. All the diplomats, State Department people that came with Trump, and they were having meetings with the Russian alternatives. This is all being discussed behind the scenes. And with Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates said to be behind Israel, and Turkey scrambling to fall into line behind Russia, it's a done deal. Assad, in short, is here to stay, and the West must now begin the process of coming to terms with the fact that it backed the losing side in the Syrian civil war. Given that the U.S. was close to going to war against Assad not so long ago, it's a shift, and one that's been some time in preparation. Last month, Trump quietly abandoned U.S.-backed Islamist rebels in southwestern Syria. This was the birthplace of the uprising against Assad. Let's see. Yeah, here. Most of the rebels surrendered and have been given safe passage to their last redoubt in the north. Those who remain now await what promises to be a final devastating onslaught from the Syrian army and their allies in the Russian Air Force. And yes, we should expect 2 acts in tandem. Syria is now, to all intents and purposes, a Russian protectorate. And so the Russians will win out of this a Mediterranean seaport.
Yes.
And the Israelis are good with that. Benjamin Netanyahu is good. So this is getting really complicated because there's all this other stuff. Like, this is speculation on just my part, but you look at the big shootout in Las Vegas and the change in power in Saudi Arabia, and even like all the fury coming out of Hollywood and the pedo sex trafficking and all that stuff. And this is a big, elaborate, intertwined story. And it seems even within the Jewish higher levels, there seems to be some sort of a battle. Because, like, within Israel, like we don't get it reported here too much, but if you read the Israeli press, like they really want to get Netanyahu out.
Yes.
He's been there for almost 20 years, and there's a big press, and it seems like there's almost like a civil war within like the Zionist community. And Trump himself is a Zionist, but he's hated by this big faction of Zionists that hate Benjamin Netanyahu. And this whole peace plan seems to be something to do with that. Like it's a desperation move by the Netanyahu faction and Trump, lock things down. And then, the opposition Zionists are all screaming against any slander they can to try to, impeach Trump or stage a coup d'etat just to stop it. And, they'll even stage I don't know what went on in Las Vegas. That still baffles me that they can, just massacre a bunch of people like that and then nothing is said. There's no big inquiry or anything. And I've been watching politics closely since the 60s, and
Yes.
I've never seen, like, I'm a political junkie. I'm a news junkie. And it's like, I've never seen anything like it right now. Like it's
No,
as crazy
it's
as
definitely
the Cuban Missile
escalating.
Crisis and all that.
It's definitely escalating. All right. Well, listen, thank you for the information, James.
Thank you.
And I agree with you. It seems every day it gets just a little bit weirder out there. So we're going to let you go and switch over to Francis. And I'm sorry. This is Francis I'm talking to, right? I was talking to. All right. Phone lines are open. Got to keep track of that. So we're getting on back to the onslaught against Trump. And I have to admit, I have a great deal of sympathy for him, that he is just embattled from all sides. It's coming at him from left, right, from his own party, his own staffers, and the corporate media. So apparently, Adam Smith was on Tucker Carlson talking about this latest indictments against the Russians. And he comes right on out and says on Tucker Carlson that the indictment shows these Russian operatives had regular contact with high-ranking Trump officials. Here's the problem. It doesn't say that. It's not in the indictment. Adam Smith just made that up to push that whole collusion agenda again. In fact, last week, Rod Rosenstein said there was no allegation in this indictment that any American citizen committed a crime. And he said nothing about these 12 Russians having any contact with any Trump official. It was just another blatant lie by Adam Smith, desperate to link the Trump campaign to Russia. That's their last hope, to find a way to get him out of that office, to portray him as a Russian stooge and a Russian puppet. And it's falling on deaf ears. People may be burned out on it. The latest survey from Gallup, asking the nation, what is the most important problem? Russia got less than 1%. And it's still in decline. People are burned out about it. It's been going on a year and a half. We've been hearing about Russia collusion, Russia collusion. There's no there. We're all starting to suffer from Russia fatigue, as it were. Now, former CIA Director John Brennan is out there now urging Republican patriots to help impeach Donald Trump after the Putin meeting. So it looks like they're realizing the Democrats will not take the House this November. So now they're starting to work on Republicans who might be convinced to turn on their president and their party and impeach him for whatever reason they're going to come up with. They're going to keep pushing this collusion story, call it a high crime and misdemeanor, and they're going to try and impeach the president without a single shred of evidence. Some people don't even want to wait until November. Whoopi Goldberg is demanding Homeland Security stage a Trump intervention. She was on The View Monday, and Goldberg and her fellow presenters was almost a race to see who could be the most enraged about Trump's performance at Helsinki. John McCain's daughter, Meghan, basically said, are you an American first? Do you not believe in genocide? Or are you going to allow the chemical gassing of children right now? I mean, they're just grasping at anything out there. And unfortunately, the incivility is spreading the other way because Michael Schur, a former senior official in the CIA and a New York Times bestselling author, wrote an essay this week calling for supporters of Donald Trump to murder the president's political enemies and media critics. Now, Schur has been described as a far-right lunatic, and he's called for political violence in the past. But in his most recent writings, the ex-CIA operative included a hit list of traitors, including Clapper, Hayden, Tapper, Acosta, Hillary Clinton, Comey, John Podesta, Maddow, McCabe, Brennan, Page, Strzok, Wray. The reporting staffs of the Washington Post and the New York Times, the Council on Foreign Relations. This is insane. We'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to get on back to the news. A lot of people are on Donald Trump's case over his lack of confidence in the intelligence agencies. And of course, he backpedaled on that and said, yes, I have confidence in all of our intelligence agencies. Then, of course, he still got attacked for that. And now he's basically come on out and said the problem is that he has no confidence in intelligence led by Brennan, Clapper, or Comey. He said it's very hard to have confidence in that group. And the president was responding to a question on by CBS anchor Jeff Glor, saying that, yeah, it's the people in charge of these intelligence agencies that are the issue. And this might be a good time to remind everybody that John F. Kennedy had a fight with the CIA, which ended badly for John Kennedy here. So before you start going after anybody who criticizes the intelligence agencies, you have to look at their history. And there's an article that came out of Breitbart. If you think U.S. intelligence is never wrong, I have some yellow cake for you. And they have made mistakes. The U.S. intelligence community totally missed the Soviet Union's plans to invade Afghanistan, not to mention the collapse of the Soviet Union itself. And the FBI still insists Vince Foster committed suicide, and that everybody who saw a missile hit TWA 800 were just drunk. So they may have good intelligence, they may not be sharing it. We had the ex-head of the CIA only yesterday saying that they might choose to withhold information from the president himself. They want to be in control of the flow of information. Because if they can control the information, if they control the intelligence, they can control the president. And it wouldn't be the first time. They were doing it to Kennedy. When Kennedy was trying to figure out what was going on with Vietnam, the intelligence agencies were feeding him filtered information to get the president to go along with an agenda they had decided on. Okay, so on CNN, Wolf Blitzer was interviewing Senator Rand Paul. Rand Paul said that he stands with Trump after his meeting with Putin in Helsinki, and thinks that partisan hacks attacking Trump may be suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, which I guess is entering the popular lexicon, and that, yeah, you should question U.S. intelligence. They make mistakes. They carry out deceptions. Don't forget the CIA was running that gun and drug running operation out of Arkansas down to Nicaragua back in the 1980s. And Wolf Blitzer just lost it, just totally flipped it out. How can you stand with this man who actually shook the hand of the president of Russia? And this anti-Russia hysteria, it's way over the top. It's jumped the shark. And I think that's the reason the Gallup poll is showing it's not registering with Americans anymore. In fact, I'll tell you, the number one concern for most Americans right now is the immigration problems. Now, Russia has announced they want to bring charges against an Obama-era U.S. ambassador and other U.S. intelligence agents linked to Browder and this transfer out of Russia of $1.5 billion without taxes, $400,000 of which wound up in Hillary Clinton's campaign. And so far, the White House is not ruling it out. The White House is actually considering letting Russia question this former ambassador. So it's amazing. And apparently the former ambassador, McFaul, he's already getting defensive. He's acting like somebody who's got something to hide. So Michael McFaul is not going to be sleeping very well. So there's going to be an issue there. I'm going to make a prediction here. Looking at the vitriol that's coming on out, the calls for violence on both sides, It's starting to feel like a replay of the 60s when we went through that age of a political assassination. John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, the attempt on George Wallace. It almost feels like we're hitting that level again. Anyway, the FBI chief, Christopher Wray, is threatening to quit if Trump allows Russian agents to come to the United States to interview Michael McFaul. That's how tense the situation is. Okay, we got to take another break for commercials. We got a caller waiting on the line. We will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Withoout the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And we got a bunch of callers waiting on the line. So we're going to start with Glenn in Philadelphia. Aloha, Glenn. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. You had just cited an article that I believe you said ex-CIA. I think you said the last name was Shore. wrote, listing a bunch of people by name as Trump administration for violence. That just screamed to me that, since they're not having very good success with frontal assault, that this guy's, a crypto leftist and, an enemy pretending to be pro-Trump, and then everybody knows that incitement to violence is unethical and illegal and wrong. So I think this guy is just a mole who's, sounding off, trying to bring condemnation against Trump supporters.
He sure brought
so that
condemnation
people can
against
say they're fine.
himself, because that was, it's bad enough we're getting it from the leftist side, from Maxine Waters and these other people, but somebody's got to just say, cool down, let's go back to talking this through and trying to find something that works for both of our sides here.
Oh yeah, of course. But again, like I said, anybody who openly advocates violence and names people and stuff like that. I mean, the Secret Service should be visiting him. Because he's I think he's an enemy masquerading as a friend and then behaving badly in order to get negative attention. So, just a thought.
Well,
alrighty, thank you.
Unless you're were to threaten like a former president, I don't think the Secret Service has jurisdiction in this case, but definitely a case could be made for him to be arrested under incitement. So thank you for the phone call, Glenn. We're going to let you go and go to Peter in Los Angeles. Aloha, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael, can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Mike, can you hear me? Oh, great. I'm in my car. Mike, I wanted to comment about Trump has every reason. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's ever been a president or even a governmental official in the history of the United States that would have more reason to doubt and to mistrust our intelligence community. And let me just point out a couple things that I know we've talked about before, but one of the things is there's not one person in Congress, even the people in the Senate and the House intelligence committees, that know what the real budget of the intelligence community is. Now, one of them knows. They don't know. Some of them don't know what the black stuff. Others don't know what they are, of course, getting from their drug smuggling and other smuggling, and all of them are susceptible to bugging. But after all, it is the intelligence community that bugged their own Senate Oversight Committee, right?
Yes.
That has, even before Trump was elected, they floated the idea of not giving him, truthful briefings. You remember that?
I remember that. I do remember that.
Yeah, I mean, so they've totally bound to get him. They own all the newspapers, as they said in the Church Committee meetings. There's not one journalist of any note in the mainstream media back in the 70s that the CIA didn't know. So they're completely dirty. They have an agenda. They've gone off the reservation in not only surveilling the American people, but intervening with their surveillance in the Democratic vote process and on the side of Hillary Clinton. If all that were to come out and everything worked the way it should, they would be abolished for them. So anybody in their right mind, if they listen to these guys, remember that the journalists telling these stories, like Anderson Cooper, who was a CIA guy, either they're bought by the CIA, they were in the CIA. The CIA certainly is backing them. They can bribe and silence them with knowledge of all of Congress, pretty much. And anybody who's clean in Congress that they're surveilling, well, maybe their son or daughter's not. Maybe their mother or father is not. Maybe their wife isn't. Almost everybody can be gotten to. And these guys can get to everybody.
Yes, it's a sad fact of life here, and these people are not James Bond. In truth, the few CIA people I've met were not very impressive back when I was at CBS Television City. But they have all this unbridled power. They have all of this wealth. They certainly act like they think they can do whatever they want because they're CIA. And it's sort of true. It's very rare that you see any CIA assets in a court. In fact, the last time I think that happened was in the run-up to the Watergate scandal.
Mike, I think that the most people question Trump's sanity and his mental stability. I think in his questioning the intelligence community is the sanest thing that any president I've ever seen done. They are they're like the Gestapo, the KGB. They're horrible. They are the players behind the scenes. They're what has to be abolished. Along with the Federal Reserve, you simply cannot have a democracy that can function with agencies that can, are unauditable, like the Federal Reserve, or can fund every single human being in the world whenever they want, and also drop dirt on them, untrue dirt, and plant stories, in the press, plant things on your computer. They can do whatever they want. They can murder you, and they do. They kill people all over. Brennan was on the Tuesday morning, let's kill this guy, let's kill that guy meeting with Barack Obama, with the drone and special ops meetings. Every Tuesday, get together and see who we kill. These guys are heinous to the core.
Yep. Yep. Unfortunately, you're absolutely right. But one of the reasons why people are attacking Donald Trump for questioning or doubting the intelligence agencies is that the intelligence agencies are the foundation of the propaganda. Assad is gassing his own people because we got that from one of our intelligence agencies. And we can't give you any more information because that would compromise the intelligence agency and their means and methods. So you just have to take our word for it. So if the credibility of the intelligence agencies is reduced in the eyes of the public, then the public skepticism continues to go on up. It's a gradual process of decay of all of our government institutions.
And Mike, one more thing. It's awkward and it goes on forever, but since they control huge swaths of the media, the corporate media, they can control what they say, and you know what? They've been successful in wrapping their horrible death head, in the flag, and making themselves look like James Bond, like all these heroes that are intelligence agents, that we see in the movies, the press. It's all crap. They've managed to wrap themselves in the flag. It's like Heinrich Himmler wrapping himself in the American flag.
Well, you're right. I mean, the CIA basically behaves like the mafia, but wrapped in the American flag. And because they're wrapped in the American flag, we're supposed to just look the other way when they engage in things like drug running, which they were doing not just out of Arkansas in the 1980s. They were bringing heroin, opium, back in from Vietnam. They had a nice little operation going there because they wanted a source of money that was outside congressional review and authorization.
Mike, you remember Air America at one point in Southeast Asia during the Vietnam thing?
Yes.
They were, I believe, the third largest airline in the world, and it was all devoted to drug smuggling, pretty much.
Well, no, it wasn't. It was basically contracted to provide non-military air support for the Vietnam, but they certainly did a lot of drug smuggling. In fact, pardon me, one of the airplanes that was used in Vietnam eventually wound up in the possession of Barry Seal when he was running that operation out of Arkansas. Excuse me, just a second.
Sure.
All right, I'm back. Just had to clear my throat.
Like all the speculation about the coordinated effort to destroy the Helsinki meetings with the indictments by Mueller and all that. And I want to harken back to when Eisenhower was supposed to meet with Khrushchev, and Francis Gary Powers got shot down. By the way, that was after Lee Harvey Oswald, who worked as a Marine at one of the U-2 bases. And they think they have given technical information to the Russians that would enable them to shoot that and destroy that, that possible submarine.
Well,
They go
actually,
way back doing this
the version of the story I heard was that Francis Gary Powers' aircraft was sabotaged because it used multiple fuels because of the high altitude. And one of the fuels was just this little tiny tank. It was just a tiny amount of this fuel to make it all work. It was so small, it didn't even have a fuel gauge. And the story I heard was that this special fuel in this tank was drained off. They calculated that it would run out when Francis Gary Powers was over Russia, and his engine would stop at altitude, and he would have to come down to a lower altitude to do an aerial restart, and that's when he got shot down. And this was all about preventing Kennedy and Khrushchev from having a peace summit. So we're seeing a replay of that all over again. Politicians will sabotage their own presidents to keep their own agendas going.
Clearly. And the entrenched deep state, which is basically embodied by the intelligence agencies, are better placed to do that and do it more often than anybody else. They can leak information. They can sabotage it. Like I say, they can plant stuff on your computer. They can do whatever they want. They can kill you.
Yep.
That's Michael Hastings.
Yep, or Seth Rich.
Or Seth Rich. That's right. Or for that matter, William Coleman.
Yeah, that one was pretty. That was pretty obvious. Somebody grabbed him, and apparently he had information somebody wanted to make sure was never going to get out. Anyway, Peter, I'm going to let you go here. We're going to switch over to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. I thank you for waiting so patiently. And what's on your mind?
Don't forget about Michael Hastings. We all remember him in his Mercedes.
Yeah, Peter did mention Hastings.
Oh, he did, yeah. Because, hey, Mike, I got to come in the defense of Michael Schur, not for what he said of the hit list. Well, he didn't add John Brennan. That's one thing. But, Mike, he did say to dump Israel and Saudi Arabia in that great heated debate when he had up against Peter King during when he was up in the Senate talking to, and they called him in because he was in charge of the Bin Laden. So I don't think that dude is I don't think he's a fraud. I think, he's angry. He's basically saying, kill them before they kill us. They're going to get us all killed. You know what I mean? This is coming down. Remember, Antifa's out there beating up Trump supporters. These people started that.
Well, it doesn't matter who started it. It doesn't matter who started it. Both sides have to stop it, or we're really going to have, civil war, or at least massive civil unrest in the streets of the United States of America. And there are so many opposing parties, nobody's going to know where to draw the battle lines. You're going to have the illegal immigrants against the legal citizens. You're going to have the Trump supporters against the Trump deranged. It's just going to be all over the place. But people have got to stop all this talk of incitement. Whether it's Michael Schur or it's Maxine Waters or it's Whoopi Goldberg, it's gone on too long as it is, and everybody needs to calm down.
But even like with John Brennan calling what Trump said traitorous, this guy is like a traitor. You know what I mean? These people, the ones going after Trump, Trump's not perfect. He's got a lot of flaws, obviously, but these people are the traitors. You're witnessing, Mike, the downfall of America, because these people are coming out of the woodwork now. The Max Boots of the world, and we're seeing Anderson Cooper and Wolf Blitzer for what they are. And Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. We're seeing what they're just tools, and that's why Fox had to backpedal a little, because they're getting a lot of feedback from the Trump supporters now. Fox don't have a lot of friends anymore.
Well, none of them do. None of them do, and it's almost like this war with Russia agenda or Cold War agenda isn't working. And it seems like every day they're more and more desperate to demonize Russia and to demonize Donald Trump for talking peace with Russia. And Peter was absolutely correct to bring up Francis Gary Powers, that, that shoot down of the U-2 plane derailed the plan that Kennedy had to try and seek some kind of detente with the Soviet Union. Kennedy wanted to call off the race to the moon in favor of a joint project. And these were all good things. But he was a threat to the military-industrial complex. He was a threat to the Federal Reserve. He was a threat to the Texas oil billionaires. He was a threat to organized crime. And you get that many enemies, and yeah, even if you're the president, bad things will happen. And I have to be very honest, I am very, very concerned that we've reached a point where if these anti-Trumpers aren't able to get any more traction with the propaganda about collusion and hacking, that there may be an actual attempt on the president's life. And I know he's got his own private security working together with the Secret Service Protective Detail. And all I can say is be vigilant, because my sense is there's a real danger out there. With all this talk of violence and with all of this opposition to Trump's policies, there is a threat, and be vigilant.
And Mike, you know what's, Donald Trump is like Kennedy, and John Brennan is Dulles, one of the Dulles brothers, because he, even though he's not in there anymore, he has a lot of contacts, and they can do a lot. I mean, they can pull some kind of a false flag with Estonia doing something. You know what I mean? Like they can do something.
Dustin, got to take a break for commercials. Don't hang up. I'm going to come back to you because you're making a very good point about the Dulles brothers.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health. By Amazon customer. It works for me. Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're still talking with Dustin in New Jersey. And you're right. There's almost a sense of deja vu about what's going on. We have a president who's trying to, calm down relations with Russia that have been fanned up by Cold War version 2. That's like John F. Kennedy. And you're absolutely right. Brennan fits right into the mold of Allen Dulles, who was head of the CIA in Kennedy's time until Kennedy fired him over the Bay of Pigs. Wow. I mean, history may not repeat, but it's definitely rhyming.
Yeah, but Mike, we got out of the Cold War because remember Cuba happened because of us putting the Persia 2 missiles in the Turkey.
Pershing.
That's why the Cuban Pershing was it the Pershing 2 missile, right?
Yes.
I think not the, but well, you know what I mean. But the Cuban Missile Crisis was because of that. But Mike, we're at a situation where we might not have that chance again. You know, we were given that chance, and that. Remember, they wanted to sink one of the ships going to Cuba, the Russian ships, and then you found out later there was a Russian subs under there. They had nuclear torpedoes, and we all know how that would have ended. But I'm saying we're at this point again.
Yes.
And I mean, it could turn out the opposite way this time.
Well, somebody could make a mistake. Somebody could, Dr. Strangelove was a warning that some officer could just on his own say, yeah, let's get the party started here. Or if you remember the movie War Games, that was actually based on a real life incident that actually happened and almost triggered a nuclear war. But the armaments industry, the military industrial complex, they're making huge amounts of money and they're willing to risk this kind of war because they're not going to fight in it and it's good for business. The bigger the wars are, the more money they make. And they're pushing really hard for Cold War II, if not a hot war, which I'm convinced would be an absolute mistake for the United States. But the reason the first Cold War ended was, of course, the collapse of the Soviet Union. And we may see Cold War 2.0 end with the collapse of the United States.
And nothing's happening here, Mike. Rotting infrastructure.
Yep.
63% of the American people can't get $1,000 up for an emergency. Yep. And Mike, I went on YouTube. I saw China's building infrastructure all over the world. They got in Nairobi, they got uranium mines they're building. They got train stations and lines they built. They're expanding their lines, all brand new. And we're not building crap here. It's over here, Mike.
We are building crap. That light rail down here at the bottom of the hill. I mean, years behind schedule, billions over budget. And it's emblematic of all that's gone wrong with this country, with everything that's politicized. Our government has bankrupted the wealth of this nation on the machinery of war. And we're obviously not going to win in Syria. Now they're talking about pulling out of Afghanistan. And I would like to see all these wars come to an end. But would it not have been better to have simply not started these wars in the first place and spent all of that money on rebuilding this nation? And now they've missed the opportunity.
All right, thanks, Mike. Have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to take a break for station identification, and we will be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth. What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Now, over in Paul Manafort's case, yesterday a federal judge denied a request by Paul Manafort's lawyers to suppress evidence seized by the FBI from his home as part of special counsel Robert Mueller's ongoing probe into the alleged collusion with Russia. And Manafort's lawyers had sought to limit the scope of evidence that prosecutors can rely on for his trial in September in Washington, D.C., claiming that the search warrant was overly broad and therefore unconstitutional. And that is because of the wording in that Fourth Amendment. Okay, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. It's that word particularly. You can't show up at a house with a search warrant that says, we just want to search. The warrant has to say, we are looking for illegal fluffy dogs or something like that. And that's what they have to be looking for. But the judge basically sided with the prosecutors and said, no, it's not overly broad, even though what they're going after Manafort about has absolutely nothing to do with the alleged collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. What Mueller wants to do is get Manafort in a headlock and try and turn him, get him to turn on Trump and give him something. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Mark in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, a couple of things I wanted to ask you. One is this obsession now with Russia. Just goes to show me the establishment, including the media stuff, mainstream media, that they're working probably for the military-industrial complex because they need a bogeyman. If they don't have a bogeyman, there's no reason to justify the ridiculous amount of defense, so-called defense, actually police the world spending. And they also, I really wonder if these people are stupid enough to think that anybody would win a nuclear war, or that if we had a localized war, let's say on Russia's border, Russians would be motivated. They don't want their country invaded again. They have to think it, and the next war will not be fought on Russian soil. And I think they kick our butts. Right? I think they're more motivated. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is China.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of people now that saying China is really our main enemy and blah, 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 including, by the way, Alex Jones, on InfoWars. And I even heard Hannity recently say it also. They're the ones that are really spying on us, blah, blah, blah. Do you think China is really? I know they're still supposedly a communist country. Do you think they really, are that terrible? And another thing too, what they're saying, they chain kids up to trees while the parents go to work, and have a suicide net, people jumping out of, because they're so disgusted with the jobs they're doing, that they have the net to stop them from committing suicide at all, and it's just one terrible, horrible place. Do you believe that or what?
No, I don't. And part of the reason for that is that we have seen this pattern before. Whenever the military-industrial complex wants to kick up another war, it's preceded by propaganda about what a terrible place this is and how the people are suffering. And really, we have a moral imperative to go on in and help these people. I'm going to tell you right now, war with China would be a big mistake. First of all, it's a big country, and they have a lot of people in uniform. But I'm seeing the start of the propaganda run-up. It's like we don't have enough wars on our hands already, and they're pushing hard for war with Russia, and now they're doing it to China. And it's hard to see what the thinking is. Are they really planning a world war, or do they just want to give us the illusion of one so they can go on taking our money and giving us absolutely nothing back for it?
I just wonder, being the kind of with the all-volunteer army today, and I really don't think they're picking the best of the best anymore. I think that more and more young people are getting wise to what's really going on, because
they've had to lower their standards. The recruiters have had to lower their standards.
So, how do they? The only way they would have the amount of troops is with a draft. If you think they're going to get people out of this population, especially young people they need, they're crazy. First of all, these people they get their news, again, not from the mainstream media, but from the net. They know what's going on.
Yep.
And they're going to want to be, you would have riots, make the 60s look tame.
Yep.
And if you somehow did get them into uniform and did get them out in the field, and they had to fight, let's say, a localized war against Russia, let's say it didn't go nuclear, they'd slaughter us, because they're motivated. They have no, they have to, by the way, you mentioned Michael Scheuer. Michael Scheuer is actually, he's very truthful about what he says. He wants us to get out of these wars and stuff like that. He's made it clear, what we're facing and what we're dealing with if we keep starting these things. If you talk about a different Michael Scheuer, I don't know. There's just no way that they could win a localized war like that, and it would have to have draft. And I just don't know what these people are thinking, because, what? Russia means no harm to us. They're not a threat to us.
No, they're
unless
not.
we make them a threat. China, I don't think
they're making them a threat. They're making them a threat because that's good for the armaments industry. It allows the government to try and scare us into obedience, except that part of it doesn't seem to be working, according to that Gallup poll. We're not falling for it. We're not afraid of the big bag Russian boogeyman. We're more concerned with illegal immigration, according to Gallup. So,
what did that Gallup say?
I'm sorry?
What did Gallup poll say? I missed it.
Concern about Russia, less than 1% of the population said it was their top area of concern. And the top area of concern for the majority of the people who were polled by Gallup is immigration.
Yeah, immigration and jobs, sending out jobs overseas and, things like that. I don't know if it's a good idea to have tariffs or not. That might backfire. I understand Trump was talking today against the raising the interest rate, which I can understand. They should have raised the interest rates a long time ago, but now is probably not the time to do it, because this could just any improvement this economy is making now, that could just destroy it right there and then.
Yes, it would, and it could even trigger a market crash. Basically, all the indicators are saying we're going to be in another recession next year.
What do you think is going to happen with housing? You think housing is going to go down again too?
Yeah, we're in another housing bubble. Wall Street never learns any lessons from their past disasters, because they don't have to pay for them. When they had that 2008 real estate bubble followed by the mortgage-backed security meltdown, it didn't cost them anything. Nobody went to jail. Yes, AIG went out of business, but the others were all propped up and saved by TARP and bailouts and quantitative easing. And those members of Congress...
They're advertising all the time. They run commercials. Evidently, if they ran out of business, evidently they're back, you know?
Okay.
They're always
Or
advertising.
I'm sorry, or was it Lehman Brothers who collapsed?
Oh, Lehman Brothers, right.
Yeah, I misspoke.
But I'm surprised even with China that, you know, I don't know what's going on with, like, InfoWars and all that, why they're drumming up stuff about China, because China, you know, to me, China is actually almost a miracle when you consider that not that long ago they were still walking around in those, what they call them, Mao suits or something like that, you know, looked like a fatigue, looked like the fatigue outfits we used to wear when I was in the Army, you know?
Yep.
And their hat, everything like that, and that's what people walked around. Today, everything I can see, I look at China, they're a modern society. If anything,
They
more
are.
modern
They
than we are
are.
today.
They are. Now, some years ago, I took Claire to Cincinnati, Ohio for the World Choral Olympics, and it is a global event. And there were several choirs there from China, and it's obvious these kids were all happy. They, you know, of course, they're traveling the world. Performed very, very well. They didn't look to me like the children of a society that is all that oppressive. And again, the goal of the propagandists in the United States is to convince you that this is still the greatest nation on earth, even as we slide into obvious decline. And back in the 1980s, I had an opportunity to work in some other countries in Europe and noticed that conditions there were not as they had been presented by American media. They were a lot better. And I had a wonderful time. So, yeah, they want you to believe this is the best nation on earth. They don't want you to leave. They want you to stay here and work within the system. And so, yeah, they're going to try and puff up how great things are in this country. And with everybody able to look around and see that things aren't very good in this country, yeah, you're going to start seeing more and more propaganda that says, oh, this country's just in terrible condition. This country's in terrible condition. Oh, you know, the beavers are out of control up in Canada. You know, China's doing all these evil things and Russia's doing all these evil things. And, you know, you couldn't possibly want to think about emigrating, although a lot of Americans are. A lot of Americans are giving up their citizenship and getting the heck out of Dodge.
By the way, did you see what Putin is doing, by the way? And by the way, Michael Scheuer brought that up, and then I looked it up, and sure enough, he's bringing in 15,000 families from farming families to South Africa, because you know what's going on there. You know, there's almost genocide take place there. He's bringing them, and I think that's just a start. I think you might see all 4 million before this is over going to Russia, and he's offering land and everything else. I mean, so, you know, and Michael Scheuer pointed this out, too, on the John Frederick show. I'm not sure who the John Frederick show is, but I found it on YouTube. And he's saying that Scheuer even said, I mean, this man's a Christian, and he's inviting Christians over. It's, you know, it's not like they're making him out to be. You know, the way the media makes him out to be, you think he's the second coming of Stalin. And he has the Politburo working full-time, and he has the gulags going full-time. That's what, if you listen to the stupid media, the mainstream media, that's what you would think. And that means the so-called right-wing media like Fox News and the other clowns, you know, CNN and MSNBC. We're really just the same coin, just different sides.
Yes.
So, you know, there's no rhyme or reason for what they're doing. And we're finding out, but people are finding out. People found out, too, during the World Cup, I think. Now, I don't know how much the sanctions are affecting Russia. I don't think they're affecting them as much as we'd like, as they planned on. But you would probably know more about that.
Yeah, there was actually there was an American politician who'd gone to Russia for the World Cup, and he said, looking around, it doesn't look like the sanctions have really had much of an effect at all. And again, it's just poking a finger in Putin's eye more than anything else. Russia, of course, is a very, very large country, and there are some very beautiful cities like, St. Petersburg and Moscow. And then there's all the way out on the Kamchatka Peninsula, and that's developed. But there's a lot of still undeveloped territory in the middle. And Putin has been running this free land deal actually for a while, where if you're willing to move to one of these undeveloped areas, you can have a big chunk of land to set up a farm or whatever you want to do here. And it's basically he's replaying the Homestead Act that we had to build up the American West. And he could eventually wind up with quite a few of those white South African farmers moving on up there. And they'd certainly be a lot colder in the winter than they are now. But South Africa's turning into a disaster.
I don't know if you know about this guy who used to be a Palm Beach sheriff's deputy, Palm Beach, Florida, John Dugan. I was just, RT had a thing about him, and I just saw Jason, I don't know if you know who Jason Goodman is. He was interviewing him yesterday on one of the YouTube channels,
Mm-hmm.
And he's happy, except he doesn't have his kids. That's the only problem. But he's having them visit him. He actually fled to Russia because he was blowing the whistle about the corruption in the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department, and he was a computer expert at the same time, and they got wind of it, and they started going after him. They stick the FBI in him also, and he decided, you know what, he had to escape first to Canada, and then get a plane to Canada to finally to I think it went to Romania or something like that, and then went from there to Russia.
Yeah,
and he's very happy. I mean, imagine coming from Palm Beach, Florida, and now living in Moscow. That's quite a difference.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is.
Jamie,
Okay. There was this very short franchise of movies called Reds, retired, extremely dangerous, starred Bruce Willis. And the second one of them, they actually shot part of it in Moscow, right in front of the Kremlin. And you look around in the background, you're seeing, you get a good sense of what life is like there. It's not a terrible, terrible place to live. Anyway, listen, Mark, I got to let you go. I'm falling behind on my new schedule here. We're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And getting on back to the news, as you know, this Russian Maria Butina has been arrested for espionage. And as it turns out, the FBI supposedly knew about her activities for a long time. They knew she was working with the NRA and conservatives, but did not warn them she was a spy. So were they trying to use Maria to set them up? Remember when there was this issue raised about the investigation into Donald Trump's campaign was to try and find spies, potential spies. And the first thing he said was, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me you suspected this person might be a spy? I wouldn't have hired them in the first place." So we have exactly the same thing. Again, the FBI was using this Russian asset to try and set up the NRA and various conservatives. What a mess over there. Okay, well, Joe Lieberman is calling for Democrats to reject Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in November. And the honeymoon is definitely over. And she's been quite controversial. When she was campaigning, she was openly critical of Israel's treatment of the Palestinians. She's an open borders advocate. I think it was yesterday we were reporting she was calling for all the ICE offices to be occupied and just demanding open borders. But she did beat incumbent Joe Crowley in the primary in her state. So Joe Lieberman wrote this little editorial piece in the Wall Street Journal saying that Democrats should drop her and continue to support Joe Crowley, who apparently is going to have to run as an independent because that's all he's got left. But Joe Lieberman is basically trying, again, to undo the will of the voters. It's getting to be a bad habit with these guys, I think. Alrighty, we're going to take another break here for commercials, and we will be right back after these few words.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network, thank you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of...
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And once again, we're coming to you with our hat in our hand. and saying that Republic Broadcasting wants you, needs your support. The postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Road, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can call in with a credit or debit card donation or pledge to be a recurring monthly subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during normal business hours, extension 3 at all other times. Getting on back to our domestic politics here, John Kelly, the current White House Chief of Staff, is under fire for apparently botching the handling of a top aide's domestic abuse scandal. And there is now word that Trump may replace him with Mick Mulvaney, who is a retired 4-star Marine general, as his chief of staff. So another big change in the White House staff coming. Okay, a lot of people besides me are getting a sense things are headed toward a crisis, toward a fracture. Story coming out of Zero Hedge here about how America is the upside down, and it's spending most of its text talking about this very obvious hypocrisy of just going after anything connected with Trump, while the very obvious crimes of, for example, Hillary Clinton get swept under the political rug. We're looking at a huge, huge scandal, Spygate. And we now know it involves President Obama and the FBI and probably the CIA and NSA as well. They didn't just spy on him. They set up members of his team in a grand scheme of entrapment arranged by former CIA Director John Brennan. This is huge. Corporate media, it just is not covering it. Or they're covering the little individual pieces and they're missing the overall. Another article out of Zero Hedge. U.S. politics is reaching a breaking point. And so the article says, Putin has declared the Cold War over, which is why all the war hawks are so unhappy in this country. They all have stock in the military-industrial complex. Pat Buchanan agrees, and you have to give kudos to Trump for going to Singapore and Helsinki looking for peace, and that, of course, does make him a danger to the military-industrial complex. So we are heading toward a fracture or a crisis of some kind. What was it Lincoln said? A house divided against itself cannot endure. That's what's happening in Washington, D.C. It's fractured, it's factionalized, it's dysfunctional. All right, let's talk about the war zones here. Down in Syria, the Syrian Democratic Forces are trying to normalize relations with Damascus. They're saying, let's sit down and talk about a way that we can just sort of end this war and peacefully coexist. And so that is a very, very positive development. Now, you know that Israel has been encouraging, championing the flow of refugees from war-torn areas into Europe. They think it's a great idea. Well, now we have refugees fleeing from the fighting in southern Syria that are heading for the border with Israel, and Israel is turning them away. Another little double standard out there. And there was a Reuters reporter at the scene, said an officer on the Israeli side of the fence told the crowd, get back before something bad happens. Okay. Lindsey Graham, who once ran for president himself, huge supporter of Israel, and he's come out now warning Israel against any deal with Russia over Syria. And he came on out and said, be very careful making agreements with Russia in Syria that affect U.S. interests. Then he went on to say the U.S. must maintain its presence in Syria to ensure ISIS doesn't come back and to counter the Russian influence. So now we can have countering the Russian influence along with the countering Iranian influence. All right, we got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And over in Hebron, the Israeli army has blown up 3 Palestinian wells. from which they get their drinking water, and also blew up the front of 8 homes, leaving them demolished so that the families living in them have to go in and out through windows. This has become a very common tactic by the Israeli army. Once again, Israeli settlers have stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's just provocation after provocation after provocation. And these Israeli settlers were under armed security by the Israeli police. So Netanyahu's trying to get something going. We've heard all the talk about the Israeli military being told to get ready for a major military operation in Gaza. But Netanyahu needs the Gazans to do something to justify it, or Netanyahu will resort to a false flag. They'll launch a bottle rocket from Gaza into a dirt field in Israel, and the war will be on. Now, Israel has passed a bunch of laws that a lot of people are very upset about. Israel okayed the law limiting Palestinian access to the courts. And critics are saying this effectively paves the way for the Judaization of the West Bank. The law effectively transfers jurisdiction over administrative issues related to the occupied West Bank from the Israeli Supreme Court to the Administrative Court in Jerusalem. And the law also prohibits human rights groups from petitioning Israel's Supreme Court. Another law that they passed was the Breaking the Silence law, which basically says Israel can now ban critics of the occupation from giving presentations to school children. And third, and worst of all, Israel did pass that Jewish-only national self-determination law, despite the huge outcry around the world. And there was apparently quite a fearsome debate inside the Knesset. But it passed by a narrow margin, 62 to 55. But the law basically will come into force as soon as it's published in the Knesset's official gazette. And it's really sparked a wave of protest. It basically legalizes apartheid inside Israel that says there can be Jewish-only areas to which Arabs are simply banned, and that only Jews have a right to self-determination inside Israel. So it's basically reducing the Arabs to clearly a second-class inferior citizenry. Over in Great Britain, as you know, there's been this fight going back and forth over whether Parliament was going to adopt Israel's favorite definition of anti-Semitism, which is criticism of Israel's government. And they weren't able to get that through, primarily because of Jeremy Corbyn. And this triggered a profanity-laced outcry by Labour Member of Parliament Dame Margaret Hodge, who basically called Corbyn a racist and an anti-Semite, which is kind of funny because he's Jewish. But they were just out there screaming at him. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. In this debate over whether criticism of Israel's government represents anti-Semitism, a rather surprising voice is rising. 36 Jewish groups from around the world have issued a statement condemning the conflation of anti-Semitism with criticism of Israel. And their statement says, as social justice organizations from around the world, we write this letter with growing alarm regarding the targeting of organizations that support Palestinian rights in general and the nonviolent boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement in particular. These attacks too often take the form of cynical and false accusations of anti-Semitism that dangerously conflate anti-Jewish racism with opposition to Israel's policies and the system of occupation and apartheid. And among the various groups that signed the statement are Jewish Voice for Peace. We've linked to their website on many times. In fact, they initiated this whole thing. Jews for Palestinian Right of Return, Jews of Color and Sephardi, and Misra Jews in Solidarity with Palestine. Jews say no. And there was even a Jewish group inside Israel itself that signed on to this, along with the Netherlands, Belgium, France, New Zealand, Canada, Germany, Spain, South Africa, Argentina, and the United Kingdom. And it never really made sense. I mean, saying that the only reason people criticize Israel's government is they hate the Jewish people is like saying the only reason people criticize the Nazis is they hate Germans. That's how silly this whole thing has been. Now, as you know, the Freedom Flotilla is underway, and they're making progress. They're taking their time. They're stopping at ports. And there's a former Israeli Air Force pilot who is among the volunteers on the flotilla, Yonatan Shapira. And he's basically saying it's time for a boycott of Israel, not just the illegal settlements, but all of Israel. He's saying Israel's democracy is, in fact, an apartheid state led by fascist Jewish supremacists. Boy, did he get that one right. And with the passage of that Jewish-only self-determination bill, yeah, that's it. Israel's government just declared itself an apartheid state. Their attitude seems to be, yeah, we're apartheid. What are you going to do about it? Down in Nicaragua, the war or attempted coup d'etat is continuing there. And Nicaraguan National Police and pro-government civilians retook a symbolically important neighborhood that has recently become a center of resistance to President Daniel Ortega's government. And the town is called Monimbo. It's a neighborhood of Messiah City before dawn. And they had largely regained control of it by the afternoon. So, a lot of stuff going on down there. Hard to keep track of all these wars. Over in Asia, Beijing is sending some of their strategic bombers for real combat practice to a massive war games in Russia. And China will send H-6K bombers, J-10 fighters, JH-78 fighter bombers, IL-76s, Y-9 transport aircraft, and a team of airborne troops to Russia for the International Army Games 2018. Now, these war games, first launched by Russia in 2014, will be co-organized this year by China, Russia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Iran, and Armenia from July 29th, just 10 days from now, to August 11th. And basically, it's kind of like their version of Rimback. Now, a lot of people wonder why the military has to be so expensive. And there used to be something in Congress called the Golden Fleece Award for wasteful spending. And more times than not, it went to the military. This one is going to really get your hair up. The Air Force has admitted that it will be spending $10,000 each to replace toilet seat covers in the C-5 Galaxy cargo planes. The reasoning is that the plane is no longer in production and there are no more spare parts, so they're having to basically custom make a toilet seat because you can't go down to City Mill or Home Depot and find a toilet seat cover for a C-5A. But apparently, Senator Chuck Grassley lashed out at the Defense Department over what he's calling a spare parts ripoff. Now, the first thing I thought about when I saw this was, wouldn't this be a good application for 3D printing? I mean, they've still got the old seats. They can scan those to get the shape, and then you 3D print them out with the new material. That's going to come in for a lot less than $10,000. But they never listen to me on these things. Claire's laughing in the other room. So let's get into the economic news here. And I mentioned this earlier in the show. Unless the Federal Reserve changes course, we're looking at a recession next year, 2019. And it has a lot to do with the yield on the U.S. bonds, the short term versus the long term. And a lot of people watch the difference in the yields, looking for telltale signs. And as of June 13th of this year, the median estimate of Federal Open Market Committee members of the appropriate federal funds rate by the end of 2018 was 2.4%. This implies that the Federal Reserve has penciled in 2 more 25 basis points increases by the end of the year. If the Fed holds this rate increase course, the yield curve is signaling there will be a recession. Now, obviously, for those of you with variable rate mortgages or credit cards or things like that, a rate increase, even though it's a tiny one, it will impact you. But more importantly is the fact that the stock market is being kept in green territory. Well, it didn't make it today. The Dow was down 134. But it's the availability of very inexpensive money. So investors will basically go to the Fed, borrow a bunch of money, buy a bunch of stock, wait for it to go up, sell it out, return the money to the bank along with the interest, and what's left over is their profit. It's what they get to keep. And that activity, that upward pressure, drives the market upward. That activity is going to slow down when the cost of borrowing that money to play that little game with the stock market means there's nothing left over. Nobody's going to do this just for fun. Now, Cyprus, remember Cyprus? They had that huge banking crisis, led to bail-ins, bailouts, and massive poverty. Apparently, it is happening all over again. The Cyprus Cooperative Bank apparently has failed and will be sold to Hellenic Bank for very little. And there is already a bank run forming following the news, which has only just started. And you know, the cooperative bank has been split into a good bank and sold off to Hellenic Bank. This sentence doesn't really make any sense. So, again, in Europe. Now, despite all the talk about the economic recovery here, we are seeing that the deficit for next year is projected to top $1 trillion. Now, we're not talking debt, we're talking deficit. What it means is, as of next year, the U.S. government is planning on spending $1 trillion more than it takes in from taxes, tariffs, excises, from whatever sources it gets its money. And that means that by the end of the year, the total U.S. government debt will have climbed by another trillion, plus accruing interest. This nation is in serious, serious trouble. Story coming out of Russia today. The BRICS group of emerging economies are starting to close ranks in the face of U.S. trade aggression. And Putin is getting ready to attend the BRICS summit in South Africa next week. And of course, he's going to meet there with representatives from Brazil, India, China, and South Africa. And they're going to be talking about the challenges posed by this trade dispute with the United States. And the BRICS meeting comes at a time when the U.S. is trying to withdraw from global trade agreements that were first signed to serve its interest. Washington has been accused of paralyzing the work of the World Trade Organization by refusing to agree to the appointment of new judges at the WTO appellate body. So, let's talk about immigration and refugees and so forth here. Out in Los Angeles is still pushing forward to be a city of sanctuary. Now, of course, all of California is a sanctuary state, but a lot of cities have taken it on themselves to say we're sanctuary cities, and they're battling the Trump administration. and apparently a federal judge recently handed down rulings both for and against the Golden State's longtime position as a sanctuary city for undocumented immigrants. So the fight is going to the courtroom. Now, according to the Department of Homeland Security, more than 100 deported migrant parents intentionally left their children behind in the United States. And it doesn't look good, but it's the parents' decision. Hopefully they were left with somebody who's going to take care of them and are not just out there running wild, being picked up by child traffickers. Another report here that smugglers, again, we reported on this before. Border Patrol agents in South Texas arrested 3 unaccompanied minors being used by the Mexican drug cartels to smuggle marijuana across the Rio Grande River. And this is something that's been going on. There were 3 bundles on the 3 kids, total weight of 64 pounds. That's a lot of weight for a kid. Street value, $51,000. Now, over at the DNC, the Deputy Chair, Keith Ellison, has come out with this bizarre claim that national borders are an injustice. They create injustice because people in other countries have a right to the United States that the American people built. It's not fair that we want to keep our country just for ourselves. That's their new, they're talking global socialism is what they're talking about. So the DNC is definitely on board with this idea of whatever you built, it has to be shared with everybody around the world. We'll be right back after these few words.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these 2 giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And as we come up to the top of our third hour, we're going to go back to the phones. Mateus in Canada, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael. I got to say that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and Trump really has been given a mission impossible. And as disappointed as I have been, I got to say that making nice with Putin goes a long way. And the more that I see everybody in the establishment against him, the more it makes me like him. And so I wanted to say that I'm not believing the establishment polls saying that he's losing popularity, for the reason that the people that are against him, the never-Trumpers, their polls are pretty consistently against Trump.
Yes.
They're not honestly going to go up and down with current events in real time, whereas Trump's base, or what's left of it, they're more honestly willing to go up and down with approval based on current events. And so if Trump shoots the missiles at Syria, his base poll numbers go down.
Yes.
If Trump goes and has a friendly summit with Putin and puts Cold War II on hold, then his base should go up, whereas his opposition should stay consistent. So what do you think? Do you think that he's really lost popularity overall with this?
I think he's lost some of his base. I'm certainly not as enthusiastic about him as I was when he won the election. On the other hand, I still maintain things would have been a lot worse had Hillary won, or to be more accurate, stolen that election. But the corporate media polls cannot be trusted, and we used to run polls on this website that asked the same question as the corporate media polls, and of course we got very, very different results. But if you want to know what's really going on, just talk to people and ask them what they think. Don't get confrontational, don't get caught up in an argument, but just find out what's going on with your friends and neighbors in the community around you. The corporate media polls can't be trusted. Even Fox News ran a poll, or was showing a poll today where they claimed 46% of Americans didn't think that Trump was tough enough on Russia. So, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, this localized drop in his popularity, supposedly, in reaction to the summit, that's specifically what I'm not believing, because...
No, I'm not buying that one either. That was a good thing. I mean, we can see this full court press going on, where the Democrats and even some warhawk Republicans in the corporate media, they all want to deny Trump the image that he did something good. They did the same thing after the meeting with Kim Jong-un. They basically want to destroy him in the eyes of the American people ahead of removing him.
Yeah, I'm kind of giving him a little bit of a second chance because of this situation. I just realized it's really, he was given an impossible mission, and so, I mean, I'm going to lower my expectations a bit and give him a bit of a second chance. Regarding your $400,000 of illegal Clinton Foundation money transferred over from criminal elements in Russia.
Mateus, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to let you go. We got to do a station identification, and after that, we have a guest on our show. So thank you for the phone call, and we'll be right back.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. And we're going to close the phone lines for a little bit here. Joining us right now is Leon Siu, Minister for Foreign Affairs for the Kingdom of Hawaii. And Leon, I wanted to get you back on the show because we're starting to see this whole issue of sovereignty and independence being brought up again by events in South Africa, events in Crimea. And so I think it was time for our people to have an update. But before we do that, you're calling us from Hilo, correct? Or
No, actually, I'm presently in Honolulu again. I was in Hilo yesterday.
I was just going to ask if you could see the smoke and everything from the volcano from where you were.
Oh, yes. Well, I could when I was over there, yes. Because you can see it from a good part of the island because it's pretty prominent. It's right out there, in the one of the tip of the island. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get back to business here, and for the benefit of our listeners, what we're talking about here is the fact that Hawaii's statehood is not legitimate. There was a lot of skullduggery that attended that. And do you want to give them a quick overview of the history of Hawaii?
Sure. Okay, very quickly. The United States at one point coveted Hawaii for its military position, for its strategic position as a military base, primarily Pearl Harbor. And at the same time, the American sugar planters who had large sugar plantations in Hawaii were wanting to have an open market to their sugar in the United States. They had enjoyed really quite a boom in their industry during the Civil War, but after the Civil War ended, the southern states came back online and the sugar prices started to plummet. So they thought that it would be best to be able to continue their sugar operations by annexing the Hawaiian Kingdom to the United States, thus it being a local product, and they would get high sugar prices. So the two sides colluded, and they devised a way to overthrow the Hawaiian Kingdom, or at least to depose the Queen and the government of the Hawaiian Kingdom. And so that came into being in 1893 when they moved on that plan. So with the United States collusion by landing troops in Hawaii, the sugar planters and their cohorts seized the government from the Queen. The Queen, recognizing that this was an entirely illegal act, stood down and said she was not going to provoke the U.S. to an open warfare. So she basically filed diplomatic protests which were actually successful because within 9 months, the U.S. Basically denounced the actions by the military and by the foreign minister in Hawaii, and said that the United States had acted totally unlawfully and that they were now obligated to return the Hawaiian Kingdom back to its proper and lawful governance. They didn't do so. A new president came in, and they decided they really wanted Hawaii, and the Spanish-American War broke out. Although the U.S. had failed twice in trying to annex the Hawaiian Islands because it was illegal, but the Spanish-American War broke out, and under military necessity, President Cleveland declared that the Hawaiian Kingdom would be part of the effort, the war effort. So they actually mobilized Pearl Harbor and a bunch of other military installations here in Hawaii. And of course, the war with Spain was over in just a month or so. But then the Filipinos, who thought they were liberated, found out that the United States intended to keep the Philippines as their colony, as a U.S. colony. So the Filipinos got a liberation movement going, and so they fought the United States for another 4 or 5 years. And the United States then saw the necessity for this military base in Hawaii where they shipped their troops through. So all in all, over 10,000 troops were shipped to the Philippines through ports in Hawaii. And of course, all the support from the Navy came through Hawaii as well. So that particular war cost the United States something like 5,000 lives of the United States military, but it cost the Filipinos well over 200,000 lives. And so it was a bloody war, and it's a hidden war. People don't talk about it. But Hawaii played a key role in it. And so after that Filipino war, the United States just decided never to leave Hawaii. And so they simply passed some bogus legislation in Congress and kept Hawaii. And that's where we are.
Well, yeah, and but let us not forget what happened where Bill Clinton actually signed a public law that acknowledged the Hawaiian people never gave up their sovereignty. It was Public Law 103150, and he signed it.
That's correct.
In 1993. And a lot of the Hawaiian people said, well, that they're recognizing that this is still our nation, and it caused a great deal of confusion because there were some people who wanted to go back to the pre-annexation land titles, and it really messed up the courts. Now, why don't you tell everybody what it is that you do specifically for the Kingdom of Hawaii? And I'm going to preen you a little bit here by reminding everybody that you were nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. So that's one of the nominations I agree with on that. So tell us what you're doing for the Kingdom of Hawaii. What's the latest news on getting the rest of the world to acknowledge the injustice that's been done to the Hawaiian people?
Well, actually, that's my mission, is to get the rest of the world to acknowledge or to at least be aware of the injustice. And so over the last, I've been the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the last 18 years, and over the last 12 years, we've really made a lot of progress, starting with total ignorance about 12 years ago, or at least feigned ignorance, to where many of the people that I've been in contact with. So I travel often. I travel to foreign states as well as to Geneva and to New York with the United Nations, where the people from the United Nations gather for the United Nations. And there I have access to all of the countries of the world. And so I've been using that opportunity to speak whenever I can at these venues. And I've been gaining a lot of interest initially, and now beginning to turn into support. And the support is, of course, still measured because people are leery of confronting the United States directly. So, but they have said, if you can find a way that we can help you without directly confronting the United States, then we'll consider helping you. So this is where we're at, and I'm very excited because in the last 2 years, and particularly in the last few months, we've really gotten to the point where these countries are seriously considering helping us because we found various procedural things that they could do that would actually assist us greatly by pointing out certain inconsistencies and violations by the United States regarding their obligations to international law and to the United Nations Charter. So what we're trying to do is have these countries bring the United States to account for their behavior toward the Hawaiian Kingdom according to the standards set up by the UN Charter. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what's happening. Now, we've had some breakthroughs in that there have been a couple of communications that have been issued by experts within the United Nations that support our contention that the Hawaiian Kingdom still exists and that the United States is under some form of illegal occupation, and that they need to, at this point, the United States needs to change its position and be that of an occupier, which then comes under international law as to how it can govern the Hawaiian Islands in an interim situation, so that the Hawaiian Islands would then be able to govern ourselves. So that's where we're at right now.
All righty. Well, I mean, I've been following this issue since before Claire and I even moved here to Hawaii. When I was still living in Southern California, I became aware of this issue of Hawaiian sovereignty and how the U.S. government basically cheated the people of Hawaii out of their nation. And it's certainly not something that people are comfortable with. There are voices saying a great wrong has been done, it has to be undone, and there are other voices saying, well, it's so long in the past, there's really no recourse and everything. But interestingly enough, I've seen some videos that have been out on YouTube. One of them called Honest Government Advert. I have it at the bottom of my own page on the Hawaii issue, which is up in that little gray menu at the top of my page. And it's very funny, talking about basically Hawaii's not a state, it's the longest running U.S. military occupation. So people are starting to take note, and they're paying attention. And especially as they start to lose their blinders, as you will, and look at how the United States is treating other countries, looking at how Israel treats Palestine. People aren't ready to just blindly assume that anything the U.S. government has done in history has been on the up and up. And so I think more and more people... Go ahead.
Yeah, quite the contrary. People are suspicious of everything the U.S. does now.
Yes.
Because of this pattern of behavior. In fact, there was a book written in 2006 by Stephen Kinzer, who was over here, by the way, just a couple of months ago. And his book it's called Overthrow, and it basically, I think the subtitle is American Regime Change from Hawaii to Iraq.
Yes.
And basically he says that in Hawaii, that Hawaii set the pattern, or the U.S. used Hawaii as the template for how they disrupted governments internationally. And it's been going on ever since.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to break that pattern, or at least expose it.
Well, the pattern's pretty much exposed. There's a website called Third World Traveler, and they just have a list of the 50 times that, over 50 times, the United States government has tried to regime change other countries since the end of World War II. Not always successful. In fact, they're batting about 500. But we're seeing that same pattern being applied to all these other countries. It's not always working. It obviously did not work in Syria.
Right.
Doesn't seem to be working in Afghanistan. And I think my personal opinion is that the United States government is currently showing a lot of the same symptoms or behaviors that we saw in the former Soviet Union just before it collapsed. And when you couple that with our economic realities, I think that we could see a serious reset or upset in the United States. And at that point, there there might be more latitude for the Kingdom of Hawaii to basically go to the world and say, it's time for us to get back our heritage.
Yes, yeah, and our freedom.
Yes.
The right to govern ourselves and to make our own decisions and not to be dragged into the controversies and the wars of the United States. The North Korea incident, is one of those things that exemplifies that, where, we would have been attacked by North Korea simply because the United States has their military bases here, not because of anything that Hawaii has done. So we're put into grave danger by the United States' presence in Hawaii. And of course, we saw that played out in World War II, or at the beginning of World War II with the attack from Japan. That was not an act of aggression against the Hawaiian people. It was against the United States military base. And so we're saying that not only have they harmed us from the standpoint of depriving us of our resources and our lands and our ability to govern ourselves, but they are putting us in grave danger of being annihilated now by nuclear arms.
Yeah, and that would be true whether it
So
was...
we have a very strong...
I was going to say that would be true whether it was North Korea or Russia or China. We're being put in harm's way.
Yes, yeah, in grave danger. And you live in Aiea, so you're right there at the Big Red X, Pearl Harbor.
Yes, I am. And, of course, we got to see the good fireworks there during RIMPAC on July 4th here. And were you here when that ridiculous ballistic missile message came in?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Man. I still don't know what that was all about.
The funny thing is that I know it was a terrible experience for everybody, but my cell phone where I live, I don't have very good service on my cell phone, and so I only caught a very smidgen of the text that went out, and so I just continued working. I just saw alert and it was blink, blink. I listened for the sirens. I didn't hear anything. So I just continued going on with my work. And it was, hours later that I found out everybody was panicking, And but it was a big wake-up call to a lot of the people here.
Yeah, it underscores the fact that we're all collateral damage if the U.S. really does go to war here in the Pacific, and we're seeing this buildup of tension, not just against North Korea, but against all of China, because the U.S. wants to keep China basically isolated along the Pacific coast. They don't want China projecting power out into the Pacific, which is why they're making a big stink over those islands in the South China Sea.
Right. And basically China is saying, well, look at you in Hawaii. You're talking about us 200 miles from our shores. Look at you 2,000 miles from your shores with Hawaii.
We're a little out there. Actually, we're going to go ahead and start taking phone calls. We've got a caller, Bill in Texas, and it looks like he's got an interesting question. Bill, welcome to the show. And what do you have for Leon?
Thanks for taking my call. My question is, how long would Hawaii remain independent of China? Would it be in minutes or seconds if the U.S. wasn't there?
Well, that's interesting because I look around the world and there are many, many countries that are independent and are doing quite well on their own. So the idea of the Cold War mentality of another country coming in and taking over is actually something of the past because we don't see that anymore. In fact, it's been a total reversal since the establishment of the United Nations with the decolonization process where these countries and hegemonies were broken up. So we don't worry about China.
The Chinese plan to take over Taiwan was leaked in 2013. They're planning a full blitz. Now,
yeah, but that's
Hawaii
a different situation.
Extremely valuable.
That's a different situation because China views Taiwan as part of their nation while Taiwan wants to be independent. China has no claim over Hawaii. They don't claim that Hawaii is part of the Chinese empire, if you will. So the two are really not
Right.
conflatable. Anyway, Bill, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go here. And yeah, a lot of people are going to say, what will happen to Hawaii if the U.S. government just packs up one day and goes away? What would happen to Hawaii? Obviously, there would be a lot of countries interested in making use of portions of our island, but it's going to be a lot easier to just do it economically than to try and come on in and take it over. If Hawaii is not presenting a threat to anybody, let's not make war.
Right.
Let's do business.
Yeah, exactly. And the age of conquest, in order to take resources or to do business, is pretty much over. And the entire world is very sensitized about that. Like I said, most of the countries that exist today existed as colonies in the past and are now free independent countries. They're very, very sensitive to the fact of one country taking over another one in a colonial way. So the whole mood of international mood is that you can't do that anymore. And that's changed. The laws have changed, et cetera. Yeah.
Okay, we have to take a break for commercials, and it's 3 minutes long, and we'll be right back.
Many people write about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. My wife and I both use Extendivite and are very pleased with the results. It has helped to stabilize our blood pressure and to make both of us feel healthier. Good product and good buy. So far, so good. I've been taking Extendivite 3 times a day, only a short while now, but already I've noticed the circulation in my hands and feet improving. They tingle. I like the idea of taking something herbal rather than pills. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network, thank you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. get no way.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're talking with Leon Siu, who's the Minister for Foreign Affairs for the Kingdom of Hawaii. We're talking about the fact that Hawaii's acquisition by the United States is riddled with all kinds of problems. And from a perfectly legal point of view, the Kingdom of Hawaii it never really went away. And Bill Clinton in 1993 signed a public law apologizing for the annexation and acknowledging the Hawaiian people never surrendered their sovereignty. So he was out there saying, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry we took your country. I feel really bad. We're not giving it back, but I feel really bad. So that's what's going on. Now, Leon, I want to take a comment you made where you said that colonialism as a model is dead, and I beg to disagree.
Well,
overt.
I take that back, because I know that colonialism is rampant, and just the whole global system is a colonial system. What I'm saying is that overrunning countries in a way that they used to by conquest, that part is not as
That is true. That is true.
Looked upon very kindly anymore. Yeah, but colonialism is rampant, of course, through economics and through the global system. I mean, it's worse than ever.
And well, it's also regime change. I mean, a good example of that would be Iran back in 1953, where the U.S. didn't invade Iran. They simply went in and overthrew the government of Mohammad Mossadegh and installed the Shah, who lasted until 1979, when the Iranian people gave the vote. Yeah.
Right.
So that kind of covert colonialism is still very much at large, and again, it's all about resources. So, but here in Hawaii,
go
ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, one of the things that will mitigate that for us is knowledge. If people know about what happened here, people know about our struggle to regain our status as an independent state. And if people know that, and people do love us here in Hawaii, so we have already the sympathy of the world toward us.
Yes.
And if they know about this, nobody's going to really come and take over after the United States leaves.
I agree.
Especially if we are successful in creating a vibrant young country, or continuing our country in a vibrant way, and in an independent way, not the lapdog or puppet of anybody else. And I think that we will be able to survive quite well.
I agree with you on that, and for a very simple reason. Hawaii, in terms of resources, we've got lava, lots of that, and of course we have pineapple, which are just not worth invading over. Now, the reason the U.S. originally stole Hawaii was Pearl Harbor and having the unsinkable battleship Hawaii projecting power into the Pacific. But in the age of hypersonic transatmospheric missiles, the necessity for a fixed naval base, it just really isn't there anymore. And in any event, the U.S. Now forward bases pretty much everything over to Guam. So the motive for grabbing Hawaii doesn't exist anymore. I think the other countries of the world are going to say it's going to be much more profitable and beneficial just to do business, get the tourism back up again, and just turn this place back to what its public image used to be. But I really think Hawaii will do quite well on its own, and not a lot will really change. The new incoming kingdom will be well motivated not to cause a lot of upset within the general population, unlike that new president of South Africa who's just thrown a monkey wrench into everything down there.
Yeah. So yes, so I think we will do quite well, and if we look at the conditions of things in the world today, and at the potential for Hawaii to regain its place as an international trading center. Basically that's what it was at one point. We had diplomatic legations in over 90 locations around the world, with consulates and embassies. And those were trade embassies and trade consulates. And so to maintain all of these types of things, and so we had a great relationship. We were highly, we participated in a very high level in international discourse and things like that, so that we can return to that position of being a full participant, but a peaceful one, and one that promotes peace, promotes aloha, for which we're known as well. So I think we have a very rosy future for us if we are responsible and we do what we need to do.
I absolutely agree, and I've been a big supporter of this whole idea, like I said, since before Claire and I even moved here, because, okay, I'm sorry, I'm having to respond to the control room.
Oh.
All right, we're coming up on another commercial break here. This one's going to be about 4 minutes long, and apparently we have a caller on the line that wants to talk to you about something off of Maui. So we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org. So, you love talk radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
If you are one of the millions of people who get migraines, you need to know about MiGrelief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist who created MiGrelief, the patented dietary supplement that addresses nutritional deficiencies in adults and children with migraines. Thousands of physicians and pharmacists recommend MiGrelief.
Call 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Do you or someone you know suffer from chest pain, blood pressure, cholesterol, or irregular heartbeat? Are you looking for a more natural solution to overcome these health challenges? You hear the ads all the time. If this stuff's so good, why doesn't my doctor prescribe it? That's easy. Doctors are not trained in natural medicine. Extendivite Heart Tonic does want you to be as healthy as you can be, and it really works. Take Extendivite for 6 months and your doctor will say, I don't know what you're doing, but don't stop. It's working for you. Get the dependability of Extendivite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
If you've got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant them anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you've got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you we've got the money. Well, we won't say we did. The towers in
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're talking with Leon Siu, the Minister for Foreign Affairs for the Kingdom of Hawaii. And I'm looking at my email, and I'm already getting some comments about what's going on. One I wish to read on the air. Current guest and idiot caller, he handled that very well. The last thing anyone needs is more fear. And the idea that the U.S. is there to protect Hawaii is, in my opinion, pure idiocy. And it was obvious this guy had an agenda. He's pushing the be afraid of China situation. And we have a caller waiting on the line. Eric in Nebraska. Aloha, Eric. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, aloha to both of you. I profess I don't know much about Hawaiian history, and I didn't know much about Cuba until I watched the Cuba Libre documentary on Netflix. Could you recommend any documentaries on Hawaiian history?
Well, yeah. If you go to my website, up near the top, underneath my picture, there's a link to permanent articles, and there's one about Hawaii that has all kinds of pictures. And down at the bottom, there are some documentaries, including Hawaii's Last Queen, which is a very good retelling. Leon, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, yes, actually. Yeah, there are several good documentaries that have been made. One is called An Act of War. You can go ahead and Google that as well, An Act of War. And then another one that was actually done by the History Channel called The Conquest of Hawaii. And that has a much longer, broader history, but it puts things into pretty good perspective. Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. And then the comment I wanted to make about was about the Carthaginian. Do you know how that came to rest off of Maui?
Well, I can take the answer to that one. It used to be moored at Lahaina, and it was kind of like this decoration, and it reached a point of decay where they decided that it might be better to use that dock space for something else. So they basically towed it on out and scuttled it to turn it into an artificial reef, and now the dive touring boats basically go out to it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the reason is because that was laid down in Germany between the world wars, and that ship was limited to only 100 horsepower because of the Versailles Treaty. Thanks a lot for the comments. I really like your guest today, and aloha to both of you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. Aloha. Okay, so getting on back to the situation here in Hawaii. One of the other arguments that I've often heard is that if Hawaii were to win back its independence from the U.S. government, that Hawaiians would be obligated to compensate the U.S. government for all the improvements on the island. In other words, you're all going to have to go back to living in grass huts, which isn't bad. I got to do that down in Fiji. But here's my analogy for that. If somebody steals your car, and while it is in their possession, they put a brand new stereo in it, and chrome rims, and really nice tires, and a bunch of other stuff, and then the police catch them, are you obligated to pay that car thief for those improvements? No, you're not, because he didn't put them in there for your benefit.
No, you're not.
He put them in for his benefit.
Correct. And yes. And then in Hawaii, of course, this is, besides it's been an illegal occupation for all of these years. Well, actually, it's actually been a criminal enterprise, not even rising to the point of an occupation. But let's say it's an illegal occupation. Then they owe us the money for using our resources and disrupting our lives and basically stealing our identity and all these types of things. So any reparations that comes out of this, it's actually favorable toward us. We have, in fact, put together a very large bill that we will present and probably will forgive if we get our country back.
Okay, good move to do there.
But we'll maintain. But we'll maintain everything. You know, everything. We'll retain all of the infrastructure and all the good stuff. We'll take out the bad junk, that they put in here. But we'll retain all the good things. These military bases would make wonderful housing areas for our people. They're like turnkey cities, And we have a serious homeless situation and a serious housing situation here in Hawaii that could be solved by these military bases being vacated and returned back to the Hawaiian Kingdom. All of those lands that those bases sit on are Hawaiian Kingdom lands. All of the territory of Hawaii, as you said, we never surrendered any of our, not only our sovereignty, but our territory, our lands. They're all part of the Hawaiian Kingdom still. And so it's really a matter of going back and reassessing and realigning the true ownership of these lands and continuing on from there. So I see it mainly as a change of management rather than a drastic, change of.
I would agree. I would agree. Like I said before, the Kingdom of Hawaii would be well motivated not to cause any social disruptions. And so basically the only thing that would change would be the faces on the currency and the flag on the mast. And other than that, life would go on. One positive advantage we would have is that we would no longer have TSA acting as an impediment on our tourism in the airports. Getting on back to the military bases, I agree with that. I've looked at them all in Google Earth, and I find it amazing that on an island, every major military base has its own golf course. And to talk about an arrogant display of land grabbing, that is. Yeah. On the island of Oahu, the military controls 22% of the island. It's all military use. And so to get that back would be just incredible. By the way, the U.S. has signaled a number of times over the last 15 years or so that they actually, these bases here are actually, as you had expressed earlier, with this newfangled way of doing war, with this high-tech war, they actually, these bases that they have here are pretty antiquated. Yes. They can't really use these. And so there's been some proposals made by the Pentagon for shutting down key bases here in Hawaii over the years. Of course, the community, the state of Hawaii, as well as Dan Inouye at the time and other Senator Dan Inouye fought it vehemently. But they actually at one time proposed closing down Pearl Harbor because it was seen as not being necessary. And then, of course, a few years ago, there was a big proposal to close down 2 Army bases here, which again was fought by the powers that be that are in control here. But the thing is, if the military has been looking at the practical uses of the bases that they have here, and they've been found that they're replaceable or expendable. They don't need them. Yes. And so they're just kind of being kept for almost just for what is that? For image. Yeah, image purposes. And tradition, and also the money, because Pearl Harbor and the military bases mean there's a lot of U.S. money coming in through those bases, which then goes out into the local economy, and I'm sure that's why our state government is certainly going to fight tooth and nail against losing any more of those facilities. I remember a few years back when they were trying very hard to get an aircraft carrier permanently stationed here, because that would have meant, much increase in money. Yes, but actually when you study it, and we did so during the proposal to shut down the 2 Army bases, we studied the net contribution by the United States with those bases, and we found actually that they did not contribute anything kind of sizable net gain to the people of Hawaii. In fact, in many cases, they were actually a burden to the people because so they did not contribute that much to the economy. They put a tremendous strain on our housing and things like that. They're the ones that helped to create the housing crisis here in Hawaii because they're paying federal money to rent houses at 3 times the price that a local family could afford. Yes. So these types of things were taken into account, and when you factor all of that in, they actually have been a detriment to our economy. It's just the image or the perception is that they're bringing in money, but they actually are not. We're spending more money hosting them. I stand corrected on that issue. Well, there's another aspect of that as well, and that is the environmental damage. And a lot of people here in Hawaii are very concerned about the environment because we are on an island. Our ecology is very delicate. A lot of the birds that used to call Hawaii home have gone extinct. And so we're very sensitive to the issue of pollution. We're sensitive to the issue of GMOs and other chemicals. And the fact of the matter is that the military has a bad habit of dumping all kinds of nasty chemicals all over the ground in all kinds of places. There's still one area down on the Big Island that is permanently...
And in the water.
And in the
and
water.
In the water.
There's this one area down on the Big Island where they used it to test Agent Orange. You remember that from Vietnam. That was actually developed at UH Manoa. And you still can't go in there all these years later. And you're right about dumping stuff in the water. There's a lot of unexploded munitions down there. And if you look at the Mariners charts, the professional ones, not the tourist maps, you'll see these little areas marked out saying no drag netting here, because they don't want you catching your net on something that might go bang. Or might gush out into the ocean. Yes.
They got chemical weapons and things like that buried, sunk in there. Now, for instance, Pearl Harbor, the reason it was called Pearl Harbor is because it was a very, very productive place. It has fish ponds all around it, and it had oysters that produced pearls. You can't find a single oyster in Pearl Harbor anymore.
No, you can't.
And that's been quite a while. Because of the pollution that's gone on.
Claire and I go down to this little park that's right on the edge. We walk along. We can just see how polluted the water is from whatever's coming out of all those ships. But I'm familiar with the origin of Pearl Harbor. It's a mess. It's absolutely a mess. So,
but the great thing is that nature is able to regenerate itself if you give it a chance. And look at the Hudson River.
True.
Places like that. So we can do this. We can reclaim as well as regenerate our resources around our islands that have been badly damaged. I believe we can bring them all back, and we can make this place productive and alive again.
Well, that's something I would certainly like to see happen. There's no question right now that the entire world is in a very dangerous time in history. There seem to be way too many world leaders who think a new war is their best option to solve whatever their particular problems are, whether it's a collapsing economy, the population not obeying them. And I am very, very concerned about what's going to happen to the world and to Hawaii if this thing does get out of hand. And as I said, that bogus ballistic missile alert was a wake-up call for a lot of people. And I, like you, the alert came on in, and I listened for the sirens, and there weren't any sirens. And at that point, I said, "There's something wrong with this." And then, of course, an hour later, they came on out and said there is no missile. So we still don't really know how that came about or why there was a similar incident in Japan just 2 days later. So something was going on, and we'll find out about that. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners here? We're coming up to the top of the hour.
Well, just that we've had some breakthroughs in the last few days. And there was a filing that was made by one of our people, which basically is a filing to demand that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, invoke the laws of occupation and change the way that Hawaii is governed into an occupation government, meaning that an occupation government has to administer the laws of the place that they're occupying, meaning they would have to impose or start administering, instead of U.S. laws in the Hawaiian Islands, they would have to impose or start administering Hawaiian Kingdom laws, which are still on the books and quite adequate to manage ourselves. And they have to administer it until such time that the Hawaiian Kingdom is ready to take over its own governance. And so this is a major breakthrough is that the president is being confronted right now. And of course, he has a choice as to whether to do it or not. But the thing is, what we're saying is that you are obligated under the international laws to administer the laws of the Hawaiian Kingdom here in the Hawaiian Islands. And let's start with that. So we'll see how that goes, but it was a major action being taken, and it was triggered by a lot of the work that I had done in the United Nations by getting countries on board. This is one of the things that they said that they would back, that if we would go ahead and start pushing the president to obey international laws, for the U.S. to obey international laws, then they could support something like that.
Well, you may run into a little bit of a problem with the Fourth Geneva Convention, which says that an occupying power may not transfer their citizens to the occupied territories. That might interfere with tourism. But I think citing the example of how Israel manages its occupied territories with complete disregard for the local law, it sounds good. I'd like to see it happen. Yeah. I don't think we're going to get there. I think Trump is going to say, well, that's, not going to happen. And I hate to be a pessimist about it, but
the thing,
go ahead.
No, we're not counting on them making it happen. We're counting on this being brought in front of the world community and say, see, this is what needs to happen, and then we can work on it happening in the future. But I don't think, I don't think the president's going to really do anything about it. But we're getting it out there, and we're giving them proposals on how they can help solve this. Because behind all of this, what we're going to do is push for a peace treaty with the United States and start to negotiate that.
Yeah. Well, you've got a tremendous advantage regarding a peace treaty, and that is those military bases, which the U.S. Is going to want to still have access to. Because if they don't want them, other people will. And anyway, we got to take one more commercial break here. It's going to last 3 minutes long. Then we're going to have the final segment of our show. So we'll be right back.
All right.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Leon Siu, the Minister for Foreign Affairs for the Kingdom of Hawaii. And before we run out of time, Leon, where can people go on the web to learn more about what you are doing?
Okay. You can go to HawaiianKingdom.net. Very simple. HawaiianKingdom.net.
Okay, and I'm going to put up a link to that now.
Right.
Okay, so we got about another 3 minutes. If there's anything you'd like to wrap up for our listeners.
Well, just that we are very, very encouraged and optimistic about the ability for us to restore and to reactivate our nation. I just got back from the Big Island, and there's a lot of people there who are onto it, and people doing their homework and learning who they are. And so our biggest task right now, I'm in foreign affairs, so I'm talking to other countries, but locally our biggest task is for our own people to be able to reclaim their identity and in a safe way. Most people would like to, but it's not quite safe right yet because you can get arrested for minor infractions like driver's licenses and things like that. And many of our people do, and they end up in jail because they're insisting that they're driving lawfully in their own country and not in the United States. So this is quite kind of an interesting challenge that's been going on. But the thing is, more people are becoming aware of the situation locally and are starting to motivate themselves and their communities to stand together and to become the country again, to really just reactivate the country with their bodies and with their thoughts and with their goodwill. Well,
Leon, thank you very much here, and I put up a link to the HawaiiKingdom.net from my website so people can get to it and find it real quick.
Yeah, HawaiianKingdom.net.
Yes, HawaiianKingdom.net. That's the one that I linked to. And, of course, there's my article on Hawaii's loss of sovereignty. It's up in the top gray menu bar, right next to Pearl Harbor. And so, Leon, I want to thank you very much for spending the entire hour with us. And as I said, this is an issue that I've been watching closely and supportive of for a very, very long time. And all I can say is I wish you a lot of luck. I know you're fighting an uphill battle because you're trying to be a very honest, ethical man in a world where it seems like the higher you go, the crookeder the politicians get. And it just seems to make it, it's got to be very frustrating. And for you to have stuck with it for 18 years shows a huge, huge amount of courage.
Well, mahalo. And thank you so much for all of that you do, because, I follow your posts and remarkable amount of work that you do. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
And, we're all moving in the same direction.
We absolutely are on that common road to the restoration of two republics. Anyway, Leon, thanks an awful lot. We've got to let you go here. We're at the end of the program. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here and share it with your friends. Talk to them face to face. Bring back the art of the conversation. Forget about social media. It's totally filtered right now. Please support Republic Broadcasting Network. They really, we really need your help here. So we'll be back here tomorrow on Friday with the Lady Claire, and Aloha America.